Hey guys, what's going on? Seth here from retipster.com. In this video, I want to give you a little 3-year update on a video that I made 3 years ago when I first invested in a half-acre parcel of land in Panama to be used for a coffee farm. And actually, since then, I've bought 2 additional parcels, so I now own 3 of them. I'm going to link to the original video and blog post just so you can understand the premise of what I'm even talking about and all the details that go into it. But just a quick recap. So there's this company in Panama called Agro Nosotros, and they have a bunch of different companies, one of which is called International Coffee Farms, that take investment dollars from people like myself who want to buy and own this land in Panama that they will then use to run a full-scale coffee farm operation. Sometimes they'll buy existing underperforming coffee farms, other times they'll just buy raw land and create this farm and produce a profit, and then all the parcel owners would get a really big chunk of that profit each year. But the whole thing about this is that it takes time for these coffee saplings to grow and actually start producing a harvest. It takes about 3 years is actually what the original projections said. So ever since I put my money in, I've just been kind of looking at my watch, understanding that no money is going to be coming back from this for a while. So now that we're sitting here at the 3-year mark, I figured it was time to actually say something about how it's going and what's been happening. Because every time this comes up in conversation, people are always asking me like, hey, how's it going? Have you made any money yet? Have you tried the coffee yet? Have you gone down to visit yet? Because that's one of the things they invite you to do whenever you want, is go down there and visit your own land and taste the coffee that's being grown on it. To answer that question, no, I have not yet. I actually had every intention of doing this in 2020, but as you know, COVID happened in 2020 and international travel was out of the question. I meant to do it like right about now in November of 2021, but that has not happened either. Mainly because it's just sort of an inconvenience thing. It's not that it can't be done. It's just kind of hard for me to get from Michigan all the way down to Panama. So hopefully I can fit it in 2022. But in the meantime, the company puts together these annual updates where they show lots of video footage and just explain how things are going, how the coffee is selling, how it's growing, that kind of thing. So the big question everybody wants to know is, have I made any money yet? Well, the short answer to that is no, I have not. The longer answer to that, just to explain what's going on and why I haven't yet and when I will. So I actually got on a call with Darren Doyle about a week or so ago just to ask him a lot of these questions and just find out what's up. And he was explaining all kinds of stuff to me that was actually like really enlightening and filled me in on a lot of details. So the deal with my 2 coffee farms that I invested in, so I own 3 parcels total, and those are in 2 different farms. I put my money in there in 2018, but the farms weren't actually planted until later in 2019, because the way farming works in general whenever you're growing crops is that there's certain times of year when it's most opportune to plant seedlings and start them growing. It has a lot to do with the seasonality and the rainfall, because you don't want to plant these baby trees and then just have this torrential rainfall wash them all away. So anyway, needless to say, just because I put my money in there in 2018 doesn't mean that's actually when the time clock started. And also the 2 farms where my money went into were higher altitude farms. So in Panama, it's actually like this mountainous region. And when you grow coffee at higher altitudes, it takes longer for these trees to grow because the air is thinner and the weather is a little bit different up there, and it just takes longer for these things to mature to the point of being able to produce a harvest. So basically for the farms that my money is in, it's going to be about another year, more like 4 years, until they start producing a harvest. Plus add to the fact that it wasn't actually planted until 2019. So my timeline is going to be a little bit slower, and that's something I wasn't really aware of at the very beginning of this. But Darren tells me that that shouldn't really affect the overall average return on these things over 20 years being about 12%. Having a 1-year delay to that doesn't really change that overall average. It just means it's going to be about another year until I start to see anything. So we're looking at closer to like the harvest season of 2022 or 2023 for me, which honestly, like, it doesn't bother me. It's not like I desperately need this money for anything. It's just a couple more years of boring waiting. So that's the deal with the income or lack thereof from this investment to date. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, is anybody making money from this? What about the other farms that aren't higher altitude? And the answer to that is yes. Some of the earlier investors who got in like 2014 and 2015, those farms are producing, and it has a lot to do with just the time when they got into it and also being lower altitude farms that produced quicker. And apparently when you have a higher altitude farm like the ones that I'm in, it actually produces a stronger tree and a higher quality coffee bean. So it does take longer, but the end product should be pretty good. And I don't know if that means it's going to necessarily make more money. That'd be kind of cool, but there are kind of like some pros and cons to having a higher altitude coffee farm. It does take a little bit longer, but the end product is hopefully going to be a little bit better than the average coffee bean out there. So one of the questions I had about this whole coffee selling thing is, who is buying this coffee that's being harvested from some of these more mature farms that are producing a harvest? Darren was telling me that a lot of their coffee gets sold and used in Panama, and the rest of it gets sold to buyers in Japan that pretty much buy up everything. And it looks like they're on track to be harvesting about 20,000 pounds of coffee in 2022. And as the years go on, they'll be harvesting more like into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. So this is still pretty much in its infancy in terms of how much coffee is going to ultimately be harvested from these farms, because a lot of them are still pretty young. So the numbers should get a lot bigger as time goes on. I was also curious if COVID had much of an impact on the coffee farms or the sales of coffee or just supply and demand for coffee worldwide. And it sounds like life on the farm has not really been disrupted hardly at all from COVID, although they have had to have some of their workers like just stick to one farm all the time instead of moving from one farm to another to try to prevent the spread of COVID. And in terms of like the global supply and demand of coffee, it sounds like the demand for coffee is not going away, and if anything, it's gone up, but it's changing a lot because the places where people would normally buy coffee at, like restaurants and hotels and on cruise ships and a lot of these things, these points of sale have been shut down. So people aren't buying it there anymore, but they're still buying it and brewing it a lot more at home. So like the places where people buy the coffee is changing, but the demand is not really going down. If anything, people are just investing more in like home brewing equipment. So it's kind of interesting. It's just kind of a different economic environment. Now, one interesting thing about this original investment opportunity that appealed to a lot of people, including myself, I just thought it was kind of cool, was this idea that when you invest in one of these coffee farm parcels, you become like a literal deeded owner. Like it is your land. And granted, you have to sign a management agreement, so you can't really use it for anything because you're giving International Coffee Farms the full right to farm the thing and manage it as part of their farm. But still, it's just kind of this cool idea that, hey, I actually own this land. It's in my name. And one of the snags that they've been running into down there is that a lot of people, including myself, wanted to own their parcels in the name of like a self-directed IRA or a trust or an LLC or something fancy like that. And apparently in Panama, they have a hard time comprehending what that means. For example, if you use a self-directed IRA with a custodian, having both the IRA name and the custodian name on the deed is something that just doesn't really compute down there. So it's been taking a lot longer in what is already a very slow process of getting deeds issued to these new owners. And they actually have several of these earlier coffee farms fully deeded. So like if you invested in this back in like 2014 or 2015, you already have your deed and it's done. So like they know it can be done. It's not a question of that. It's just a slow process where their recording office consists of like 3 ladies in a very rural location that just move really slowly. And then we've got these complications with these weird ownership entities coming into the mix. And then COVID hits and shuts everything down. So I still have not received a deed for any of the parcels that I supposedly own. And some people might look at that and be like, are you getting scammed or something? Shouldn't you have something to prove your ownership? Honestly, like I'm really not worried about that because there is a really good paper trail showing that I invested the money and I've got this agreement with them. And if I don't trust International Coffee Farms to do what they said they were going to do in the first place, then I shouldn't have really invested money here because this whole thing is based on trust. Even when you look at like a syndication or bringing on a property manager for your rental properties, all this stuff is predicated on the fact that you trust this other party to do what they say they're going to do. And I trust them. So I'm not really worried about it. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. Is the money going to come in? We're going to find out in 2022 or 2023. But this whole issue of just not having that deed in hand to make me feel comfortable, it honestly just doesn't really bug me, especially just understanding how the deeding process works. It can be very slow, even here in the US, but for now, that's just the reality of the situation. Now, another interesting transition that's been happening with Agro-Nosotros over the past year or two is that, originally International Coffee Farms was this investment opportunity brand where people like myself could put money into these coffee parcels and then make a return over time. But the state of things now is that they don't have any more parcels for sale. They have all the farms bought up. They're not offering this opportunity to buy individual parcels anymore. This video and blog post is not in any way like a promotion of them or trying to tell you to invest with them. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just giving you an update on what's going on with my parcels that I bought. So because they don't have any more of these investment opportunities with owning parcels like this, they've kind of rebranded from an investment company to a coffee selling company. So the new brand that they have is called Cuatro Caminos Coffee Estates. Let me try that here with my Spanish accent. Cuatro Caminos Coffee Estates. How's that? The company has a new website where you can actually see a lot of stuff, including all the individual farms that they have going on, including the two farms that I'm invested in, the Jaramillo 14 and 37. Go ahead and check it out. Let me know what you think. You can actually buy the coffee through this website. Although when I was trying to buy it, it looks like it can only be shipped to Panama if you buy it through here, at least at the time of me shooting this video. That's how things are working. But there is a distributor on Amazon who bought up a bunch of this stuff, and you can buy it through Amazon, which basically just means the shipping is going to be a lot less expensive and you can get faster, easier access to it. So I'm going to include links to where you can buy it on Amazon as well. Once this person's supply on Amazon is sold out, I don't know if they're going to keep buying more, but anyway, at the time of this recording, you can buy it on Amazon. I actually just ordered 6 packages of it this morning so that I can give them away as Christmas gifts and also try it out myself. So that's just another cool little update. And lastly, some of you might be watching this and wondering, hey, is it too late for me? Can I put money in this? And like I said, you can't buy individual coffee parcels like this anymore, like I did back in 2018. However, when I was talking with Darren, he mentioned that apparently they're trying to put together a new syndication for a cacao farm in Panama. They've actually been doing cacao farms in Belize for a while now. This is going to be their first one in Panama, and it's going to be open to a limited number of non-accredited investors as a 506B. It looks like the minimum investment amount is going to be $30,000 a person, and they have to get to know the investors quite well before they could participate. So I don't really know what's involved with that, but if you're interested in that, you can contact Darren Doyle and ask him more about it. And again, this is not a sponsored plug for them or anything. I make no money from letting you know about this. I'm just letting those of you know out there, if you still want to get into this kind of thing, that's there. And I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm not telling you to do this. Don't take it that way. I'm just trying to answer that question if anybody's wondered about it. But yeah, in terms of like my final thoughts, am I disappointed that I haven't made any money yet? Am I disappointed that I don't have a deed yet? I don't think I would use the word disappointed in any sense. I knew when I was getting into this that it was going to take a long time to see anything. I knew that this was a long-term investment. The fact that nothing is happening at 3 years, it's not like a shock to me. And as with any investment, especially when farming is involved, you're kind of at the mercy of like the weather and acts of God, and things can happen that like just nobody's planning on and nobody could anticipate. As actually happened in 2020. Apparently they had like an overabundance of rainfall that caused some of the coffee trees to flower early and die, which affected the coffee harvest for that year. So stuff like that happens. If I have a year extra that I have to wait or a year that doesn't perform, it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm depending on this money to survive. It's an investment. It's up to every individual investor to decide whether or not they want to take risks and what kind of risks they want to take. Hopefully the next time I make one of these things, I'll have some actual dollars and cents to talk about. But in the meantime, I just wanted to let those of you know who are interested in this kind of thing that that's how it's going for me so far. That's the general direction things are headed. So thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.